views expressed on this episode of My Take Radio do not reflect the views, thoughts, or feelings of the My Take Radio staff, My Take Radio advertisers, or My Take Radio content partners. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
This coverage is live and uncensored, so if you have any small children present, you may want to have them leave the room.
What's up, guys? My Take Radio episode 346, powered by Rageworks, broadcasting live Thursday, March 31st, 2016. I'm your host, Rich, and our caller number is 347-324-3541, 347-324-3541. If this is your first time tuning into MTR, My Take Radio, wow, that was a bit of a, need some water. My Take Radio is a variety show where I give my take on MMA, pro wrestling, gaming, and entertainment. We air twice a week, live on Wednesday nights and on Thursday nights. On Wednesday nights, we cover MMA and wrestling, and Thursday nights, we cover gaming and entertainment. Archived episodes of this show and any of our past shows are available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/official Rageworks, and audio archives available in podcast format can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and hopefully within the next few weeks, Google Play and Spotify as well. A couple of things before we get into tonight's topics. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who's been participating in all our contests. Because of that, we are actually holding a new contest, which is live as of the airing of this show, which is for another set of pops, this time for the film The Hateful Eight. Quentin Tarantino's latest film was recently released on Blu-ray and DVD and digital this past Tuesday, and in celebration of that, we want to give one lucky listener or reader a set of 4 pops from the film. You can get the details by heading over to rageworks.net, and you can check it out there. Again, we're definitely, as always, giving people multiple opportunities to win this particular set of pops, but as always, please make sure to read the post and follow the rules. Last time we did a big pop giveaway, which was the WWE pops. We specifically said that it was open to residents in the US and Canada, and unfortunately, we had a lot of people that entered from the UK, South America, etc. Again, I cannot stress it enough. Please, please, please read the instructions, because it's one of those things where people, they reach out afterwards and they say, hey, man, I was going to participate, or I participated. Why wasn't my entry, or why was my entry disqualified? And I had to explain. I'm like, listen, you're not a U.S. resident, or you're not a Canadian resident. And, people, they were like, oh, I didn't notice that. And it's explicitly shown on the post. So again, we want to give one lucky listener, viewer, or reader 4 pops from the Hateful Eight. We're also going to drop our Batman versus Superman contest. Originally, I was going to give first and second prizes through one contest, but we may do one for the Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and then the second prize would be for the figure. And we're going to probably do another Rock'em Sock'em Robots giveaway either through the YouTube channel or maybe through Snapchat. Still debating which way we're going to go, but I figured it'd be easier to do that because some people consume our content through those other mediums as well. For those of you that have reached out, and I mentioned this last night, regarding updates on the My Take Radio TV YouTube page, we're still going through the motions with YouTube. As a matter of fact, we are scheduled to hear back from them on April 1st, which should be in less than half an hour, regarding what is going to happen with that channel. But as I said, we are probably going to start moving away from that channel and probably close it out by the end of April. And, we're going to record an announcement. Obviously, if you're following that channel, please subscribe to Official Rageworks on YouTube. That way you can check out all the latest episodes of MTR, all our reviews, event coverage, unboxings, and host of other offerings that we are trying to give you guys in video form. I know some people were a little bummed out with the whole, deletion or removal of the other YouTube channel. I mean, it doesn't hurt anyone more than me. We're almost at 100 subs on that channel, well over 100,000 views. We've had a lot of great stuff on that channel that we are very proud of, a lot of great moments, and a lot of trips down memory lane. I actually saw one of the first events that we covered with Slick doing some interviews, and, there was so much great stuff there, and it's unfortunate, but I've realized that trying to manage two channels with duplicate content doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know I'm trying to do a service for you guys that are subbed on the My Take Radio TV channel, but as I said, the main focus is Rageworks, and My Take Radio is just a flagship program under Rageworks, much like our other shows. So definitely be on the lookout for that video announcement. Probably going to be recorded and uploaded this weekend to that channel once I hear what YouTube decides. Right now, if the person who filed the claim doesn't respond to my counterclaim, YouTube is going to release the video. But I'm not going to bother keeping the video up there because it's going to just cause unnecessary headaches. I may just remove it pending the results of what YouTube opts to do. In any case, though, like I said, the intent is to move everything to the Rageworks YouTube channel. And as always, you can consume all our content on rageworks.net. We're just trying to put our unboxings, product reviews, and event coverage there. As I mentioned during last night's MMA and wrestling show, people have been recommending Vimeo and other services. And as I said during that show, I will reiterate here. And that is that, these are services that are costly. And, after much thought, I figured maybe I'll revisit Patreon again, which is what some people have said should be the best course of action for the show, because Patreon's undergone a lot of changes to the point where people don't need to, donate per episode. They can just donate per month or whatever the case may be, and that can go to providing additional hardware and other services as well. And I think that will be the way to go. I'd rather people use Patreon and get something tangible out of the deal versus, like I've said before, a donate button or any of that stuff. Just I don't want to do that. It's one of those things where I just feel it's not a necessity in terms of just trying to grow Rageworks, but I want to grow it faster. I want to get you guys the best content possible. We want to give you guys the best events, event coverage possible, games, giveaways, all that stuff. And, it's stuff that requires work and, managing a full-time job and, real-world responsibilities plus this, things fall by the wayside, and I don't want MTR or Rageworks to be one of those things that falls by the wayside because real life gets in the way. At the end of the day, we definitely aspire to do this, round the clock, full time, to give you guys the latest and greatest and best coverage possible. But it's not a run; it's a brisk walk, and that's something that we're going to continue to work towards. But I did want to update you guys not only on the channel, but revisiting Patreon and possibly putting something together in the coming weeks. In addition to that, we have some events on the horizon. We're going to be covering an event next Thursday, which means that there will not be a gaming and entertainment edition of MTR that Thursday, but there will be an MMA and wrestling edition. Obviously, we will be talking about WrestleMania and the post-WrestleMania Raw, plus all the latest MMA and wrestling news of the week. So in regards to that, there will be a show Wednesday. There will not be a show Thursday. Thus far, the remaining nights on the calendar for the month of April look fine, but things are, as always, subject to change. Like today's start time, which should have been at 11:30. Unfortunately, got home a little late and got to do show prep. We got notes and other things which need to be done, which if you're following me on Snapchat, you will see what goes into making the show. If you haven't, you can find us on Snapchat. Just look for Rageworks, and you'll be able to find us there. All right, so on deck for tonight, as always, we're going to talk about the latest happenings in the worlds of gaming and entertainment. On the gaming side, we're going to talk about 3 particular pieces of controversy that have made their way into the gaming space. We're going to talk about the Overwatch butt controversy. Want to get into that. The Nintendo firing, which got a lot of people talking. I also want to talk about Microsoft apologizing for having scantily clad women at their last big event. And I didn't get to talk about that prior because of we didn't do a gaming entertainment show last week, but I want to get into those 3 things because there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of discussion, and honestly, some of it is right, some of it is wrong, but I want to dissect it a little bit, take a deep dive in there. In addition, obviously, we're going to talk about all the stuff that's going on in gaming, including the release of Miitomo and a bunch of other stuff that has come up as well. Plus, on the entertainment side, I am going to give you guys a little bit of my thoughts on Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Review for that is forthcoming. Just been kind of swamped with the real world to get it out, but hopefully by the time this show is uploaded before the weekend, it should be live. If not, obviously, just keep an eye out for it. Some people were asking if I was going to do it as an audio review for the Minority Film Report, and I wanted to. Just again, time was not on my side. Been really trying to bring that back because a lot of people have been asking for it, so we'll see what happens. A lot of good films on the horizon. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some reviews out. I want to see, obviously Captain America: Civil War, which is next on my radar, and a couple of small films that are popping up here and there. But as always, keep it locked to RageWorks.net for those reviews. With that said, that's going to wrap up the housekeeping. Let's get into the gaming news of the week. So I want to start with the Overwatch controversy only because it was so recent. And basically what happened was Overwatch is a game that Blizzard is putting out that recently had an open beta. People have been very excited about it. And what ended up happening was one of the characters has a victory pose where she kind of does an over-the-shoulder look, and you see her ass. Whatever. Not the worst thing in the world. Kind of, the trademark sexy pose that has been used in countless games. But what ended up happening was one of the people that participated in the beta went into the Blizzard thread and expressed, I guess, disapproval only because the character, the pose doesn't embody what the character is all about. Some people are saying that it's, a form of censorship. Other people are saying that, it's just a pose, it's harmless, etc., etc., etc. But the funny thing is that Blizzard has been incredibly receptive, and they've actually gone on record saying that they had intended to change the pose and will be changing the pose going forward. Now, a lot of people were saying that the characters, that particular pose is counter to what the character is all about. The character represents, silliness, being a fun character. There's no overly sexual vibe from the character when you look at it. And you know what the thing is? I look back at an article I read. I want to say I read it 3 months ago. And if you guys remember, Esurance had an animated mascot, which was pretty harmless, but an animated mascot that ended up just getting a life of its own on 4chan and Reddit, with people drawing her scantily clad, naked, etc. It's par for the course. No matter what innocent character you put out there in some capacity, the character is going to end up being, sexualized or drawn in a way that is counter to what that character is. We've seen it with characters like Princess Peach from Mario to, the female characters from Sonic. It's something that's existed, and it's something that's been happening for quite some time. With regards to what they did and, Blizzard's handling of the situation, I have to look at it from both sides. As a gamer, we play the game, and I feel that we spend too much time focusing on things that we want to offend us. And I say this because, the over-the-shoulder pose has been used in countless games, whether, they're fighting games, adventure games, whatever the case may be. The over-the-shoulder pose has been used. Even in comics, it's been drawn that way on comic book covers. And the thing is, I'm not advocating that the pose is right or wrong, but again, we live in a different society where people are honestly easily offended, and they feel that things are overly sexual, which is crazy because, we're the same people that grew up with really, really strict guidelines in terms of our programming when we were younger. I mean, Slick can attest to this. Danny can attest to this in the chat as well, where, TV, music, everything else was severely censored when we were growing up, or people went out of their way to try and censor that because they felt that it was, not family friendly, quote unquote. And then as the years progressed, things ended up becoming more and more censored by default. I mean, a great example, if you're a wrestling fan, everyone talks about the Attitude Era, blood, violence, tons of sexual situations. And over the last few years, we've shifted from the Attitude Era to the quote-unquote reality era where, everything is scrutinized, everything is looked at with a fine-tooth comb, and it impacts the real world. And for me personally, I look at it from the perspective that there's so many other things going on in 2016. And I'm being honest, from our presidential election, which has divided many people, to, terrorists, diseases. We got a disease that's, the Zika virus that's in mosquitoes that if you get stung may not kill you, but may give your kid deformities. There's so much shit happening that people genuinely should be focusing on that shit more so than, a butt in a game. Again, not taking away from the fact that people may have been out of shape about it, but I just feel that there's so much more out there to be upset about when you're a gamer. And on top of the fact that just the gaming community as a whole has evolved so much. We have so much more access to developers. We have so much more access to the creative minds behind some of our favorite titles that I understand wanting to express genuine concern, and it's fine. I think that, the player who expressed concern did it in a pretty respectful manner, minus, obviously everybody else just piling on and talking about that it's censorship, it's bullshit, Blizzard shouldn't have to do that, grow the fuck up, etc., etc. Again, I understand Blizzard's stance on it, and I respect the fact that they reacted quickly and accordingly to just avoid the situation altogether. But as a gamer, there's other shit that's worse that we're dealing with, giant pre-orders for incomplete games, microtransactions. There's more serious shit out there. Companies breaking street date, people breaking embargoes, you name it, it's happening. And this, again, while it is somewhat worth discussing, I feel it was overblown. I saw threads on Reddit. I saw an entire feed on Twitter just about that post from varying people in the game community, from journalists, and I mean real journalists that get paid to do this shit, to people that run sites, to vloggers, to streamers. Everybody had a different take on it, but at the end of the day, it's really a non-factor. I hate to say it, but it's true. Ass, no ass, over-the-shoulder pose, no over-the-shoulder pose. The game isn't out yet. They can change it, which they did, and we could definitely move on. I know that Slick is in the queue. I want to bring him in, see what the deal is. Slick, what's up, my friend?
What's up, man?
So I gotta ask, as someone who is in a similar age demo as me, do you feel that we've become more? I want to say, I don't want to say tight ass, but more sensitive versus how things were when we were growing up. Do you feel that it's becoming more and more over the top as the years go by, instead of it becoming more and more acceptant?
The society needs preparation, H. Bottom line.
Fitting way to put it.
It's like the gaming community. We have this discussion every once in a while.
Right.
The gaming community, it's good in a way that, because I doubt one person got this changed. It's good in a way that the gaming community will stand for something and get something changed, but they're getting the wrong things changed.
Okay.
Complain that Square Enix is releasing Hitman and Final Fantasy VII episodically. Get that changed. Complain that, companies put out all these bullshit season passes that are just a bunch of skins. Complain about that. Don't complain that this character in Overwatch is posing like Cammy from Street Fighter.
Right.
That's fucking stupid. And it's interesting that you happen to mention that today, because I had just posted a review for a game, a very, very Japanese game. In fact, it's based on a manga and anime called Senran Kagura Estival Versus. Now, bottom line, this is for the crowd that likes what's called fan service, because the entire game is filled with busty schoolgirls who beat the crap out of each other until their clothes come off. That's really what it's about. And this same community that complained about Overwatch might complain about that, and guess what? The game's rated mature.
Right.
They even said it in a review. I mean, if you let your kids play this, that's on you. If you see something after that you don't like, guess whose fault it is. But if you got a problem with the way this character's posing, don't play the damn game. You're maybe somebody else really enjoys the pose for whatever reason, and maybe you're ruining the game for them, because the pose isn't hurting anything.
Right. Well, you know what it is? I feel
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Not to cut you off. I feel that when you look at it, there's that's where I'm giving some merit to the person and their explanation. They felt that the pose was, didn't fit the character, and to that I have to say, if that's the case, and it genuinely, even Blizzard said, they were like, we kind of weren't digging the pose, and we had planned to change it anyway. Whether that's them throwing a little smoke out there to kind of just put out the fire behind the scenes, whatever the case may be, a little smoke and mirrors. The fact is that if you're playing a game, well, let me rephrase that. If your child is playing Dora the Explorer, and for whatever reason Dora the Explorer does, some sort of a pose that definitely shouldn't be happening with Dora the Explorer, as a parent, you're gonna look and be like, yeah, exactly. That's one. I look at that and I'm gonna be like, that's not very cool. And the thing is, to your point, it's also about the way that the game is being rated. Obviously, if you're gonna rate the game E for everyone or T for teen or whatever the case may be, someone may raise an eyebrow. And I think that the person acknowledging that did so, and like I said, they expressed it in a coherent way, versus most complaints were like, yo man, this is fucking bullshit, I'm gonna fucking leak your address, I'm gonna send a SWAT team to your house, I'm gonna publish all your personal information, which leads to another story I'm gonna talk about in a minute, and ruin your life. I mean, again, I respected the person's approach, and I respected what Blizzard did. They were like, we appreciate it. we're going to make the change. And, you know, I asked Danny in the chat what she thought, and she said we complain more than make changes. And to a point, I have to agree. I mean, like I said before you came on, there's so many other things at play in the gaming industry or in the entertainment industry as a whole that, you know, we should be focusing on that. But again, you know, it's the weapons of mass distraction, as I like to say. There's other shit that's distracting us from the task at hand. And I think in this case, it was a story that was handled, but a story that blew out of control over, you know, for a couple of days because everybody was so overly vocal about something that honestly is a non-factor. I mean, are people going to complain about Cammy's poses over the last, I don't know, 10 years? You know what I mean? Like
more than 10.
More than 10, being honest. But you get what I'm saying. Even back then when the rating system was in its infancy, there were still poses like that. Orchid was still unzippering her blouse for a finisher in Killer Instinct. Right?
I remember that. The No Mercy move where she opens her shirt to kill the person.
Yep. But you get what I'm saying.
But that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like, I posted the picture of the character in question. I even posted the pose itself. I mean, the cover of the game, which has said character on it, if you didn't create the character, how are you going to say that pose doesn't fit the character? You didn't create them. I'm looking at the cover of this game, looking at this same character and how she's jumping through the air and shooting at somebody. And to me, she looks like she has the type of attitude where she would do a pose like that.
Right.
I didn't create the character, so I'm just going on, you know, what I'm looking at.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
To say they were gonna take the pose out. I think, like you said, that is blowing smoke. Because really, if you were gonna take it out, it would have been out already.
Right. And that's
if you really in the studios had a problem with it, I don't think it would have made it to the demo.
Well, here's one, and this will be the last piece to acknowledge it before I move on. If you remember, there was a whole big thing from Capcom about breast physics. If you remember.
Yeah, I do.
And they were like, oh, we're going to put out an update to fix that. And they did. But even still, you know, the fact that was a factor already, it's like, I understand it needs to be fixed, and it's something that is going to create conversation. But if you acknowledge the elephant in the room so blatantly, it's going to look like you guys had done that intentionally because you guys were making the game and thought nobody would notice. Let's go back. Trip down memory lane. Hot coffee in GTA. That was in the game. Whether it should have been found, shouldn't have been found, it was in the game. It was there. You know?
As far as it being in the game, I think it probably was just easier for them to hide it than worrying about taking it out.
Right.
As far as the breast physics situation, the only thing I saw wrong with it is that the actual motion that was in that animation, because I saw it once before it was taken out,
right,
was just hysterical. It's like breasts don't move like that.
Well, it's
not by accident.
Well, it's funny because Danny said some commentary I want to share with you guys. She says, and I quote, "But we're totally cool with broken games and short online games for $60 with season passes for content that's months after a game's launch." She also added, "Dead or Alive is all about breast physics, and that's its bread and butter." 100% true on both accounts. And what she acknowledged about, incomplete games, short games, and, DLC issues are 100% what the focus should be on. But obviously, we're not looking at that stuff. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this was another piece that was mentioned on Game Informer, was the termination of Allison Rapp, who worked for Nintendo as a communications and marketing employee for their Treehouse localization group. Nintendo fired her, and according to what she's saying, she was fired because she was moonlighting at another job. Nintendo said that Allison Rapp was terminated due to violation of an internal company policy involving holding a second job in conflict with Nintendo's corporate culture. That's what the company rep told Game Informer via email. Now, it's funny because, the termination follows her being the subject of criticism from certain groups via social media several weeks ago. And Nintendo went on record saying that the two are not they're absolutely not related. They added, Nintendo is a company committed to fostering inclusion and diversity in both our company and the broader video game industry, and we firmly reject the harassment of individuals based on gender, race, or personal beliefs. So, for those that don't know her situation, she was being targeted by, angry Nintendo fans because of her work at Treehouse, and her name was attached to a lot of decisions that many felt were, just not good. One of the things was the boob slider in Xenoblade Chronicles, which didn't make it into the North American version. Also, the face petting minigame from Fire Emblem Fate was another item that was removed due to localization. Even though she didn't have any say in those decisions, that didn't stop from people, and this is some crazy shit, man. People digging up personal information and allegedly forwarding that information to Nintendo with complaints about her. This was, she's been involved in a lot of stuff, man. She was part of an issue with Japan's child pornography laws that sympathize with the country's cultural norms. And, she wrote a piece on that when she was in college in 2011. And, she went on Twitter. She elaborated. She said that Nintendo's culture actually promoted her. They promoted having a second gig. And, again, here he said, she said, but it's interesting that, they put that out there and that she says that it was, not the case. She was also saying that she worked at her second gig with an alias as to not jeopardize her standing in Nintendo. A lot of crazy stuff going on with regards to that. And the thing is, it's the thing that disturbs me most about this situation isn't the fact whether she was fired for moonlighting, not moonlighting, her way of dress, how she looked, whatever the case may be. What bothers me is the fact that people don't agree with something and are angry enough to dig up personal information to sabotage a person's livelihood. And that's what really fucking disturbs me. Because, again, we do this, some of us do it professionally, some of us do it for as a side gig, as a second job, some of us do it because we love what we love this business, we love this space. And to see somebody's career get flushed down the toilet so quickly is insane. And people on Twitter were very vocal about it, and it bothers me because, again, this whole Gamergate thing, whether it's directly responsible or indirectly responsible, it bothers me that people can go without a second thought and hit detonate on someone's career. It's some scary shit.
What's really scary is how easy it is to do.
Absolutely.
Because it's like there's these like you always say, keyboard warriors who sit at home, and they think life is like a freaking comic book and some shit, where they can do stuff like that and not worry about anything. Yeah, one of these days they'll do it to the wrong person, and either they'll manage to do it back to them, or they'll show up at their doorstep.
Well, I wanna read what Game Informer wrote as their take on the situation, because it's I commend them for writing it the way they did. They wrote, and I quote, the author was Mike Futter, and I'll make sure to put a link for that in the show notes. He said, while the stories don't completely add up, there is one thing of which we can be certain. Nintendo remains silent as Allison Rapp was harassed over the past few months. She took the brunt of attacks for localization decisions made by the company, and as she states, were in opposition to her own opinions in some cases. What ultimately happened at the end of her employment with Nintendo follows months of the company turning its back on her. Whether you agree with the localization decisions made for Xenoblade Chronicles, Fire Emblem Fates, or any other game brought over from Japan, remember that these decisions are rarely made by a single person in a vacuum. No one deserves the level of harassment Rap faced. I couldn't have put it any better. You know?
Yeah, as you were saying, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that she alone could have been making those decisions.
Exactly. You know, and to Danny's point, Danny says, you know, it's also partly because of the amount of information that's readily available online. And, you know, it's funny because, as many of you know, and I've mentioned on previous shows, I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vaynerchuk runs VaynerMedia, has written a ton of awesome books, including the latest Ask Gary V, which is on shelves. You know, the guy, he is the embodiment of what I would be if I had very deep pockets, because he doesn't give a shit. And I say that just in complimenting the guy's work ethic and hustle. But I also say it because we are, you know, we should stop, and I'm quoting him here. We should stop. What's the word I want to use here? We should stop judging people's escapism. In other words, you know, the layman term for that is, just because somebody likes to watch anime doesn't mean you should attack them for it. Or just because somebody likes collecting baseball cards doesn't mean that they're a nerd, or any of these other labels that are associated with it. If a company takes it upon themselves to make a change to a title that they deem to be a change that needs to be done because it won't be accepted here, like you said, it's not one person's fault, and that person shouldn't be attacked for it. They shouldn't. If people have an issue with a problem, take it up with the company, because nothing goes through one person unless that one person is unless you're fucking Hideo Kojima, and even still, his shit would get shot down too, because he had bosses he had to answer to. Right?
Yeah, investors.
It's one of those things where people, they're so quick to judge things that, again, just don't impact them. And this goes for anything. I mean, you know, to go off base for a second, someone said to me, and I've heard this before, and my manager at my office said it. Someone said, I don't like Barack Obama. Okay. Why don't you like him? Oh, I don't like his policies. Okay. What policy exactly has he done? Well, no. What exact policy has he done that's impacted your life to make you hate the guy? Oh, exactly. You know what I'm saying? I'll throw a general one out there. Obamacare or you know, healthcare in general. You have a job, right, Slick? You get medical benefits from that job, right?
Yes.
Does Obamacare remotely affect you in any way?
No, but because of the job I have, it doesn't.
There you go. And this is what I'm saying. Like people, you want to be angry because angry's the cool thing. I make no allusions to not being an angry human being, because I am. But I'm not going to be angry about something that doesn't remotely affect me, at least not to the point where it leads to the hatred of another human being. It's pointless. For people to be this angry to where they're willing to throw a person's career into the fucking shredder about bullshit that they weren't responsible for isn't just a question of gaming culture, but it's just a question of people culture. That's how scary it is. That as a developer or a person in upper management that's involved in the creation of something that's meant to be enjoyed by hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people, is every day on the verge of having their career tossed into the shitter because somebody didn't like one thing that they may or may not have been associated with. And that, my friends, is the scariest thing out of this entire situation. Even for Overwatch, even going back to that, say they would have left the polls in there. Say somebody would have got so offended that they would have found one of the people that was involved in the project and shredded their career.
And the reason why I stayed silent for a second is just the fact that there are people out there that are just pathetic enough to do something like that.
Yep. And it's just scary. And like I said, I wanted to open up with these two things because they're not just gaming issues, but they're issues that we should look at by and large. And I'm sure that someone's going to go on YouTube and they're going to say, like they said a couple of months back, oh, he's being a feminist or whatever. No, I'm being a fucking human. You know, I'm being a person that has, you know, a wife, 2 sisters, you know, numerous women that are important in my life that I wouldn't want to see them treated the way that, you know, a streamer or a vlogger or a journalist is treated. If that makes me a feminist, then fuck it. You know, tally ho with that shit. March 4th. Simple as that. Thoughts?
It's just crazy the world we live in. How it's like how much power somebody sitting behind a keyboard like myself could potentially have, and how powerless people who are actually out in the real world might have compared to them.
Yeah, well, it's a scary thing on multiple fronts. But like I said, you know, you either have to take a stand and be vigilant, or be ready sword and shield to fight off everybody. That's it. You either got to be vigilant and keep an eye on your shit and make sure that, you know, somebody doesn't come and derail anything about you. And that's partly because of how open we are on the internet. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You know, we're sharing granules of our life with people, strangers, whatever the case may be, and that does have its pitfalls. It can open you up to something if you're not conducting yourself accordingly. And I've talked about this before. I mean, you know, I have certain aspects of my personal life that are out there because at the end of the day, My Take Radio is me, you know, and Rageworks to a point is me. And because of that, you have to humanize your brand. But, you know, I don't put pictures of my family out there or certain things. It's not part of the job, not necessary. And, you know, that can sometimes be a gift or a curse depending on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to move your company or your brand forward. But even still, nobody should be subjected to that level of harassment where their livelihood is jeopardized. All because someone was a little overzealous at the keyboard.
I agree 100%.
There you go.
It's funny because, I mean, it's totally a discussion for another day, for another segment.
Of course.
But this is probably why a lot of people don't want to put their real information on Facebook. But then again, the problem is they want to be on Facebook, and it's Facebook's policy where you're supposed to use your real name.
But here's the thing, dude, and I'm gonna be honest, and we'll use this as the way to move on. The fact is, if you are scared of putting your real name out there, especially on Facebook, Facebook's policy is we need your real name. That's because when you're putting your real self out there, and I say that in quotes, when you're putting your real self out there, you're showing the world who you really are. And the problem is that there's some people that behind closed doors or offline are pieces of shit. And they can't shut off that verbal diarrhea. And instead of just shutting it off and conducting themselves accordingly, they just find a new outlet to spew it. You and I know plenty of people that shouldn't have a keyboard in front of them based on some of the stuff that they put out there. You know this.
You see it all the time.
And I say to myself, this is stuff that is going to be archived somewhere for someone to read someday. This is something that an employer may see someday. This is something that your kids, I mean, there was a meme floating around, which was hilarious, where it said pictures of my grandparents from like 1960. And then it was like pictures of my grandparents from like 1990. And it was from 2000 and it was 2016 and 1916. And it was just showing a chick taking a selfie and she was half naked. I mean, it was funny in the grand scheme of things, but it's scary because that's where we're going. Not so much that picture, but just we're sharing everything. We're out there. We are plugged into the matrix.
And someday your grandkids are going to see that picture and be like, Grandma?
Exactly. And that's the thing. And the problem is when people, they're like, I don't want to put my real name on Facebook. I mean, if you don't want to put your real name on Facebook for something other, like if you don't want to just put your name on there because you don't feel comfortable, but you're just a regular Joe, there's nothing wrong with that, because some people, they just don't want to do it. And I know plenty of people that don't want to do that. Like they want to dip their toes in the pool, but they don't want to jump in all the way. That's fine. But if you're not putting yourself out there because you just want to be a venomous piece of shit on a new medium and you think it makes you cool and edgy or different, it doesn't. It just makes you an asshole. Going into a news article about a car accident and making a joke about somebody whose kids may have died in that accident through no fault of their own doesn't make you edgy, doesn't make you cool, doesn't make you counterculture. It makes you an asshole and possibly a scumbag. That's it. Plain and simple, bro. And if your real name is associated with that, either you're a glutton for punishment, you work for yourself, or you really just want to sabotage your future 5, 10, 15 years from now.
It's the thing, people don't even think about stuff like that.
The way I see it is I've done, we're on the verge of 350 episodes. From episode 1 through 350, I've said plenty of things that are going to raise a couple of eyebrows. And that's fine. That's fine. I own that shit. Why? My brand. My show. And if I got to go out there and I got to put this work somewhere, I'm going to let someone know out of the gate. The subject matter is a little blue. My views are a little abrasive. But
you say that at the beginning of every show.
100%.
Need for you to do that.
No, I agree. But again, if it became a question where somebody said, hey, I'd like to see a reel of your past shows, or I'd like to see a demo of your last 5 or 10 shows. Yeah, I can pull a couple of them. That doesn't necessarily mean there might not be an F-bomb in there. Or something worse.
I can pretty much guarantee that there will be.
There you go. And that's how it is. And I mean, I can pull up a dozen interviews where not one curse word has come out. But again, that's just how it is. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, moving on, there's a couple of things I wanted to get into, and you're welcome to hang out for this stuff. Sony and Microsoft have released their list of free games for the month of April. A lot of good shit on the horizon. If you're a PlayStation Plus user, you get Dead Star, Zombie, and Zombie for the PlayStation 4, I Am Alive and Savage Moon for the PS3, and A Virus Named Tom and Shutsumi for PS Vita. Meanwhile, on the Xbox Gold side, you're getting The Wolf Among Us for the entire month. Sunset Overdrive is going to be available from April 16th to May 15th. And if you have an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One with backwards compatibility, you're going to be able to play Dead Space from April 1st to the 15th, or Saints Row 4 from April 16th through April 30th.
I'm glad to hear that I Am Alive is going to be free on the PS3. I remember when that game was coming out. I was so excited, and then it dropped, and everyone was like, game is blessed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lineup of titles continues to impress every month. The addition of backwards compatibility for the Xbox One essentially gives people 4 titles to enjoy. So not bad, definitely not bad. I also wanted to keep you on because obviously everyone's talking about Final Fantasy 14 and
Fifteen.
all the stuff that came out of the Final Fantasy event. The game is scheduled to hit
Wait,
retailers
15.
15, sorry. Um, Scheduled for a debut September 30th, and a couple of different editions are out, are scheduled to be released. You got your day one edition, you got your deluxe edition, and your ultimate collector's edition. Your day one edition is going to give you DLC weapon, some pre-order incentives, Xbox One avatars, PlayStation incentives are going to be a dynamic PS4 theme. The deluxe edition is getting all the day one content, plus you're getting the Kingsglaive movie, Blu-ray, and Platinum Leviathan design and access to Royal Raiment costume DLC. And the Ultimate Edition,
Pardon me.
the Ultimate Edition includes everything, and that's available through the Square Enix store. It's $269. You're getting everything from the Day One Edition and the Deluxe Edition, plus steel books of the Blu-ray soundtrack, the Brotherhood Blu-ray, hardcover art book, an exclusive limited edition variant Noctis Play Arts Kai action figure, and in-game item packs. The Play Arts Kai figures, you and I both know, are fucking expensive. So, like Danny just said, a lot of money. A lot of money floating around. So you covered this event. You reported a lot of it on RageWorks.net. Care to fill in anything I may have missed?
Well, first off, do you want to hear this? I actually know somebody who's already pre-ordered that super duper edition. I told them straight out, I was like, listen, enjoy it. If you can make some money off of it, but it's not for me. I couldn't do it. It's like I love Final Fantasy. I don't love it that much that I'm putting out $270 for a game.
Well, you know what the thing
But
is? And what did I tell you? Well, let me rephrase that. What did you and I discuss a year ago? Hell, even 2 years back. Let's see what happens with a $60 deluxe edition, an $80 deluxe edition, a $100 deluxe edition. Here we are on the precipice of a near $300 edition of a game.
I mean, when you consider everything that's in it, is it worth it? I would say pretty much, yeah.
Well, yeah, that
It's
Play Arts
like
Kai figure is dope.
It's too rich for my blood.
Yeah, the Play Arts Kai figures are very expensive. Blu-ray soundtrack, take it or leave it. The steelbooks are the steelbooks. The Brotherhood Blu-ray, which is going to include an exclusive 6th episode. The hardcover art book. I mean, good Final Fantasy art books usually run you at least $50.
Well, Square Enix is literally going in on Final Fantasy 15. I don't know if it's because this game literally, without even having been released yet, is over 10 years old now, or they, and they just want to make it up to the fans, or like they just really want to hand over fist, make bankroll off of this game. But they're really going in because the event which happened in Los Angeles yesterday, well, actually at this point Wednesday,
Right.
It's Friday here now. It was called Uncovered, I think, Final Fantasy 15. If I'm saying this wrong, I'm sorry.
Well, Danny covered it also, so she can educate us if we were wrong.
Okay. But I mean, they announced the launch date for the game first, September 30th, which that alone was big.
Right.
If they did nothing else, people were going crazy. Just finally having a date for this game, a solid date for this game to come out. That literally, that's why my friend pre-ordered it. She's like, I've been waiting for this game for over 10 years. So yeah, I'll pay $270 for it. And there's the demo, which it's even rough to kind of call it a demo, because if it's a demo where none of the content, well, actually 1% of the content is going to carry over to Final Fantasy 15, and that's if you finish it.
Right.
What I'm talking about is if you complete the demo, the summon creature Carbuncle, which is young Noctis's partner in the game in the demo, will carry over to Final Fantasy 15, but that's only if you complete this demo. It is free. You know, if you got a PS4, Xbox One, PC, download it, because you never know when Square Enix might say, okay, that's it for the demo, it's gone.
Right.
And a lot of people are playing it. You know, there are mixed feelings about the demo, which, like I said, it has nothing to do with the final game except for Carbuncle.
Right.
Just play it, because anybody who's played Final Fantasy before knows that more summon creatures are better than fewer. Then there was the anime, which the first episode is available on the Final Fantasy 15 YouTube page, and I don't know how I really feel about it, because it's the episodes are 12 minutes long. So it's like, you have 5 episodes, which are 12 minutes long, and, you know, as somebody watched a lot of anime, a lot of the shorts are actually better than the full-length episodes.
Right.
But for something like Final Fantasy, I think they would have gone with a longer story time, or just released a 60-minute movie instead of breaking it up into episodes.
Okay.
Which that goes into the anime is called Brotherhood Final Fantasy 15. It stars the four male protagonists of the game, which, aside from Noctis, I cannot remember their names off the top of my head because they're kind of wacky names. But if you go to the website, I'm sure you can see them. Then there's Kingsglaive. I gotta get some water. Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, which features Noctis' father, and you know, it's excuse me, it's leading up to the events of Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
That's it's supposed to be a full-length movie in CG coming directly to Blu-ray, and there's no date on that, but it's definitely coming out before the game.
Right.
I think there was one other thing, but I can't recall off the top of my head. This was a whole lot of stuff that they are packing into this one title.
Yeah, they're Go ahead.
It may or may not be overkill. I want to see how Kingsglaive is first, because Final Fantasy does not have the best track record with their CG movies.
Right.
And but from the trailer, it does look, at least it's very well done, very high production values. The story remains to be seen.
There you go. Well, the amount of fanfare that's surrounding this game within the last couple of hours is definitely notable, to say the least. Someone is Skyping me. Danny, if that's you Skyping me, don't, because it comes out on air. In any case, as I was saying, clearly somebody's Skyping me. Oh,
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hold on a second. Anyway, everything that's being poured into this game is to be expected. Square Enix is going to go all in the same way they went in with Final Fantasy VII. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter are numbers, which is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about. March has come to a close, now officially April 1st, and I was hoping to have the MPD numbers for the month of March, but they haven't been released yet. I did want to mention something about the MPD, the top-selling titles from February, and that is, and this is the crazy part, Slick, can you believe that GTA 5 is still in the top 10 selling titles?
It's crazy. And what's even crazier is that they're still charging $60 for it.
Yep. On top of that, Far Cry Primal was number one. Lego Marvel's Avengers cracked the top 10. It was in the well, let me rephrase that. It made its way. It almost cracked the top 5, coming in at number 6. Street Fighter 5 obviously was on the list in the number 7 slot, and Fallout 4 still holding on. The month of February was interesting because we were dealing with, kind of the official start to the post-holiday gaming cycle, so everybody was trying to get out of the gate with something good. Obviously, Capcom did so with Street Fighter 5, and the new Street Fighter update just came out, which I'll get into in a few minutes. I think that February was a pretty solid month. Obviously, PlayStation 4 once again, top-selling console. But the funny thing is that when you look at the list, there was still a Nintendo title on there. It was Fire Emblem Fates Birthright on the 3DS. I kind of feel that Nintendo titles have dropped off with regards to selling a lot of units when it comes time to do MPD numbers. I'm curious to just get your thoughts on that. Do you feel that Nintendo's foothold of constantly having games in the MPD is winding down, and are there any games that you feel should be in there for the month of March?
That should be in the top spot?
Well, that should be included this month.
From Nintendo, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Exactly.
The only thing of note that really came out last month was the HD remake of Twilight Princess, and again, that's a remake.
Right. And this is the reason I'm mentioning this is because there was a talk, and I wasn't sure about sharing the audio because I didn't want to get into any sort of trouble with anyone, but there was a talk at 92Y. Gary Vaynerchuk was there, and somebody asked him, if you can, be involved in a company and turn them around, who would it be? And he said, Nintendo. And when he elaborated on it, he said, Nintendo should have jumped into the mobile space. And I'm saying this because obviously everybody's jumping on the Miitomo bandwagon. I see countless people on social media that I know personally and professionally sharing their little Miitomo Miis on various platforms. And again, I feel that Nintendo came into this party late. Am I wrong?
No, I mean the reasoning for it is the the 3DS, and that's still doing very well. So it's like a 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other type situation. It depends on how you look at it. I mean, I feel personally that they're not mobile, obviously, but their portable gaming presence is very strong still.
Yeah, but this is going back to something you and I have talked about, which is that mobile gaming is slowly cannibalizing that foothold. They're slowly eating their way through that foothold. Think about the amount of graphic. Well, let me rephrase that. Think about the hardware that is being placed in phones that is giving us game graphics on par, if not better, than handheld console offerings. And the issue isn't a question of if it's going to happen, and I've said this before, it's a question of when. And Nintendo, being the leaders that they are and the first party and having such a huge first party catalog, should have, like I said, and I've said this a 1,000 times before, and I'll continue to say it, should have taken advantage of some of that catalog and thrown it on mobile devices. Whether it was forging a partnership with Apple and releasing titles exclusively through iOS, or even going multi-platform, there is an opportunity, and let me rephrase that. There was an opportunity, and to a point, there is an opportunity for them to do that. I feel that the Miitomo interface and the driving force behind it is something that really is going to be a passing fad, in my opinion, unless they get aggressive with it. I feel that, Nintendo's just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Well, the one thing I'll say is this, because this is my own personal experience, and I know I can't be the only one.
Right?
You mentioned how, the mobile arena is getting, the games are getting better and better and better, and that's true. But it's getting to the point where you have to look at a cell phone the way you look at a PC or a laptop.
Right.
Because, these cell phones can run these fantastic games, but when you have a cell phone and you factor in all your other apps and everything else you do with your phone, these games really don't always run so great.
Oh, of course, but I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of mobile devices, phones, tablets, phones primarily. I mean, just looking at the iPhone as a textbook example, Apple pretty much knows when it's time to phase shit out. And if you're one of the people that are as like you and I, where we try to be as bleeding edge as possible, you're gonna have the newest phone. And even if you don't have the newest phone in 1 year, you're gonna have it within 2. And I think that with regards to that, it's almost on par to, and I say this in a from a comparison standpoint, it's almost on par with a console life cycle. Obviously not to the extreme of 5 or 10 years, but I'm just talking about you play the game, you have the phone does all this cool shit. 2 years later, a newer one comes out, you upgrade, you don't. You can still have a good experience on it, but it may not hold as much of a charge, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's the evolution of technology. And with that, you have to also look at it from the standpoint that developers are getting more and more savvy at harnessing this stuff. I mean, even right now, during Microsoft's last event, they announced that people are going to be able to turn their Xbox Ones into dev kits to create their own stuff. This is shit that we didn't need.
The Xbox 360.
Huh?
They started that back with the Xbox 360.
Right, but what I'm saying is, it's becoming more and more possible for people to just become not just consumers, but creators. And this applies, to apps and everything else. Now, again, I'm not taking anything away from Nintendo or PlayStation with the Vita or any other company that wants to get into that space. But they're going into that space fighting technology that is essentially in everyone's pocket. Yes, a lot of people own 3DSs. A lot of people do, including you. But you also own a phone. And your phone's on you more than your 3DS is. I mean, maybe not in your case, but...
Well, I also, I'm trying to look at it from both ends, and I get what you're saying, but looking at it from Nintendo's end as to why, they might not feel threatened, let's take a game that is on mobile right now. Final Fantasy IX actually recently came out.
Right.
They've had to modify this game so much and basically give you debug mode on it, and allow you to infinitely cheat on that game just to run through it, because they know that a cell phone can't sustain the type of playtime that you would use on, let's say, a PlayStation or even a 3DS.
Of course.
For playing a game like that. It'll the games kill the battery faster than anything else.
Oh, yeah, but
if you put a game like that on 3DS, you could play, during a road trip and maybe run out of battery at the very end of it.
Right, but here's...
It's that...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was just saying, and, that's again, it's my standpoint, and maybe it's the unpopular one, but that's something to consider. That would be, for me, one of the reasons why I primarily still game on my 3DS instead of my phone.
Oh yeah, and you're totally in the right in that respect. But to my point, I want to say taking advantage of the games that aren't as involved. Like, I'll give you an example. Mario Kart. If you put Mario Kart on a handheld, whether it's control with the gyroscope or control with your finger, whatever the case may be, it's a game that you can sit on the toilet, play it on the train, play it in the doctor's office, you know, and move along. And I'm saying that Nintendo has a lot of games that fall into that niche. Obviously, I'm, going super detailed with certain titles, sure. But if you did, again, for as an example, Smash Brothers Mobile on iOS, just as an example, allowed play across, various phones, various iPhones. It's a game that can be consumed quickly and, in minuscule fashion. Sure, it's going to impact battery life, but I'm just talking about Nintendo has a catalog, and you may agree, you may not, tailor-made for mobile applications, whether it's playing 1 or 2 levels of Mario, and I'm talking about old Mario, not even the new shit, but Super Mario 3 or Super Mario 2 or Mario World if you wanted to get a little up there. You get what I'm saying? There's plenty of games that you can play. I'm not telling you to play, Legend of Zelda for 14 hours on your phone, but I'm talking about Nintendo taking advantage of that catalog of easily consumable titles. DuckTales, another one. Sonic, which I've said, Mario Kart, which I've said. Metroid might be tough because, again, Castlevania, titles like that are a little bit more involved, your mileage may vary. But stuff that's easily consumable is a virtual gold mine for Nintendo. You honestly, and I've cited this, you wouldn't buy Super Mario 3 on your phone if it was $1 or $2 or $3.
Well, that's it. I wouldn't because I have it, but if I didn't, I more than likely would.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, because what's happening is we're living, and this is looking at a demographic. Kids, the younger generation, they're all about in-game purchases, in-app purchases. They buying prepaid iTunes cards or Google Play Cash or whatever the case may be to facilitate these titles. So again, the entry, we're not doing microtransactions. You're not slapping microtransactions on Duck Hunt. Like, imagine you put Duck Hunt on a phone. You use your finger as the reticle, like Fruit Ninja.
Somebody would probably try to put microtransactions on and get you. Here, you can get a sniper rifle.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, but I'm just talking about Nintendo. I'm trying to stick within the confines of what Nintendo does. Here's one. You take something simple like Qbert, and that's what I mean. Or even Excitebike. You could do Excitebike, play against other people on your mobile device. Again, just simple things that can be reverse engineered to leverage the mobile space. And I don't want to go too deep into it, only because we've done it so many other times, but I just want to say that, you look at Nintendo and everybody's like, oh, Miitomo this and Miitomo that, and this is great. And it's like, but is it really? Is it great because it's fresh and new, or is it great because it's genuinely doing something different, unique, innovative, and exciting that is not a passing phase? Because I'll be honest, I was one of those old motherfuckers that said 3 months ago, oh, Snapchat is such bullshit. Fuck that shit. I was one of them. I'll be the first one to say I was one of those, and I'm like, fuck, I'm not that old. Christ. And I jumped on board and started fucking with it. I'm like, oh, this shit is pretty cool, just because it's a real world experience. Like Instagram, you take a picture, you can doctor it, you can make it pretty, you can add filters, you could do this. You could take 17 different versions of it and hope for the best. Of course, you can do that with Snapchat, but you take a video, you upload it. It could be your fucking shoes walking down the street, and somebody's going to give a damn about it. You know, that's just how it is. And I just feel that Nintendo's reaching a point where they got to start embracing that new generation who's consuming content on a mobile device, 17 hours out of a day, because that's money that they're missing out on. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you.
Now, I want to move things along. A couple of things. DLC for Call of Duty Black Ops 3, if you people are still even touching that game, is coming out very soon, April 19th on the PS4, and then Xbox One and PC versions will follow after. You're going to get a DLC pack called Eclipse, which is going to include 4 new multiplayer maps. You're going to get a new entry in the zombie storyline, which is going to take your characters to a Pacific island during World War II. The Black Ops 3 DLC for Xbox One and PC versions do not have a date yet, but I'm sure that they will follow shortly after the PS4's April 19th debut. No last-gen console versions will be getting any DLC. Translation, start selling your shit. Pretty much. The next episode of Hitman, which you have already covered on RageWorks.net, is slated to hit on April 26th. Square Enix announced that via press release. Our very own Slick reported it on RageWorks.net. Hitman's first episode hit consoles earlier this month. There is a starter pack available, which has a prologue mission and a Paris-themed map, which is now available for $14.99. You can also purchase a digital copy of the full game for $60, which grants access to each of the 6 locations upon release. 7 episodes total will launch by the end of 2016, according to Square Enix. And there is a possibility that a physical version of the game will be available, but it won't be in stores till at least 2017. Thoughts?
Well, they were saying it was going to be in stores by like the end of the year, like the holidays, but maybe they did update that. And there's also now with the version 1.03 update, the Vampire Magician DLC, which is completely free, where there are additional missions that have come up in Paris where you have to accomplish, like kills in certain ways or accomplish certain objectives while taking out your target, and you have to do it all while wearing a Vampire Magician costume.
Nice.
So even though I may not agree with the whole episodic release of the game,
right,
there's a lot of fun to be had with Hitman.
Well, I do got to say this too. If you don't want to deal with the episodic, just buy the game, which you'd normally pay $60 for if it were new, and be done with it. Because that's what you'd be doing anyway. See, I
just think that it was a bad move for Square Enix to take away the beta, because that, I feel, could have pushed more. Yep. Of the full experience packs.
I agree.
Buying the whole game.
I agree 100%. I think this is an instance where the beta would have been crucial to continue to get people's attention on that title, because I think going episodic and not marketing it the way you would a tangible copy is going to hurt the game in the long run.
Right.
Now, on the Pokemon side of things, there are reports that trainers in Europe are able to download Jirachi for Pokemon XY and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. North American distribution is supposed to begin now officially, I guess, since yesterday. Just a question on that, especially since you're well versed in Pokemon. The way it's working is that you're connecting on the internet and using the mystery gift function, and you're going to be able to get one Jirachi Pokemon per Pokemon game. This is the first time the character's been available in the U.S. since 2010. Am I missing anything?
No. I'm glad you don't have to go to GameStop for it because you know how I feel about GameStop.
Yes.
But yeah, basically wireless connection. Make sure your DS connected to your Wi-Fi. You turn on the game, and before you start, there's a menu. You hit mystery gift. A couple of seconds later, there you go. You probably just have to go to a Pokemon Center to pick up the egg. Walk around, it hatches. There's your Jirachi.
I do want to add that trainers can receive Jirachi through April 24th. So mark that date on your calendars if you are a procrastinator, if you want to get your hands on this third mythical Pokemon. The other thing I did want to mention, as I said earlier, Capcom released their March update for Street Fighter V, and this is the update that definitely makes you want to play the game. You got tutorials, challenge mode, demonstrations, advanced tutorials, trials, online rematch option, which, like I said before, was very good, improvements to the battle lounge, bug fixes, and as of March 30th, Alex is available, and he has his story content. You also have the in-game shop and fight money. You'll be able to use the fight money to purchase DLC characters and story mode costumes. I did want to add that Amazon had the special edition of Street Fighter V on sale for $61. Just so we're all aware.
Nice.
So that may or may not find its way into my inbox. But it's one of those things you and I have talked about where sometimes you wait and the shit comes down in price. I mean, the statue was probably the only main driver for me out of that entire deal. But I will say what I said a couple of months back applies now, and that is that with these updates, Street Fighter V is a lot more enjoyable if you were waiting for the Alex DLC. Definitely take advantage of that, and you got your fight money to purchase characters and costumes. Keep grinding, keep fighting online, and hopefully the experience will continue to improve with future updates.
I agree. Actually, one more thing on the Hitman front, and this is funny if you haven't already seen it.
Right.
Hitman is having sort of a contest.
Okay.
They want to implement a star in the game as one of Agent 47's contracts. They're asking you to decide whether you want to kill Gary Busey or Gary Cole.
Oh, jeez.
And they have a live-action video, which I'll post on the fan page. Came out a couple of days ago, where they have both of them basically vying for your bullet. Really, they're trying to get you to convince them to kill them.
Nice.
I'm going to tell you right now, I voted for Gary Cole because I said it's damn near impossible to kill Gary Busey.
This is true.
Because look at him. He's definitely tried.
Man, listen, that guy's tried to kill himself, and I think even God doesn't want him.
Wow.
But last bit. See, I always say something off color and terrible. Last bit of gaming news to wrap up the segment for this week is that Rocket League's basketball mode will arrive in time for the NBA playoffs. It's called the Dunk House, and Rocket League's Twitter account said that it will be a free update and will be launching in April. So if you are looking forward to trading your car-based soccer for a little car-based basketball, it will be happening at some point during the month of April. Definitely keep an eye out for it. Of course, if I hear anything further or have a date, I will let you guys know on a future episode of MTR or on Rageworks. Anything else you want to add, my friend?
No, I'm good for now.
All right, brother. I appreciate the assist this week, as always.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Peace.
Peace.
That was our very own Slick. Let us switch gears and jump into this week's entertainment news. Let's get to it. I want to get the ball rolling with and get the segment started. Either way, ball rolling, segment started. You get the point. With Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, which has made a pretty solid amount of money at the box office. Not as record breaking as people had hoped, but still noteworthy. The film got off to a $166 million start, making $420 million worldwide during opening weekend. It has now already surpassed the $500 million mark worldwide, with an additional $12.2 million coming in on Tuesday and $32.9 coming in from the rest of the world, bringing its grand totals to 193.2 on the domestic front, 308.6 overseas, and over 500 million worldwide as of the airing of this show. Couple of things. There's three camps with this film. There are the people that hate it with a passion. There are the people who thought it was okay. And then there are the people that thought it was great. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to go too deep into it. I want to save it for the review. But I want to say that this movie is either going to get better with repeated viewings or it's going to get worse. And for me personally, I felt that there were ample missteps, but I understood what DC was trying to accomplish. And to elaborate a little further, I'll say that DC was trying to do in one film what Marvel did across the span of 10 plus years with numerous films. And that was a recipe for a lot of fuck ups and a lot of issues that people pointed out and were upset about as more and more reviews and people came out of the woodwork. For me personally, again, without divulging too much, I feel that I want to give the movie another watch when the extended cut is available, because sometimes the extended cuts make films better. I felt that the Ben Affleck Daredevil, the director's cut expanded a lot on Matt Murdock, gave a lot more a backstory, which was good. I mean, it didn't alleviate a lot of the shit that was wrong with the film, but it definitely made the film a lot more tolerable. Batman versus Superman, like I said, is in a very unique situation because it's divided a lot of comic fans as well as a lot of casual fans. Like I said, I had my issues, which I'll address in the review. My wife, who saw the film with me, she felt the same way, that there were some things she really liked and some things she didn't. But as I said, the film did something which we hadn't seen from DC in quite some time, and that was establishing something in terms of long-term goals. I mean, DC had started doing that with Nolan's Batman, with the Joker card at the end of Batman Begins. We knew where the film was going, and it created fanfare and real excitement for future installments of the film. But again, that was a film that expanded on the universe within Batman, not within the DC universe as a whole. And to a point, there were a lot of missteps, even in execution with regards to that. But I respect what was being accomplished. I think that we can only hope that the films can improve and that they can elaborate a little better on certain characters, because if they continue to rely on only Zack Snyder's vision, there's going to be a lot more upset fans or divided audiences over the course of the DC Cinematic Universe's run. Whether it's, Batman versus Superman, whether it's Suicide Squad, whether it's any of the other solo films, there's going to be a lot of division between fans, because there are certain expectations and certain things that are easy to address and easy to execute on. But I just feel that Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder, they wanted to be so edgy and so over the top that they lost sight of some of the stuff that made the film, that made the characters compelling. And, some people feel that that's great. Some people disagree. I mean, as someone who watches, TV shows from both Marvel and DC, as well as films from Marvel and DC, I really stand by the fact that DC's television universe has its shit together. Even as far as the other stuff like Supergirl and DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which are hit or miss some of the episodes, at least in terms of a universe as a whole. They've definitely got their shit together. I mean, even this past week, Supergirl, where the Flash showed up, really was just a fun episode. There were a lot of things that people were upset about. Obviously, it kind of messed with the chronological order of what's happening on the Flash. But like the creator said, unfortunately, that couldn't be helped because Supergirl airs before the Flash Mondays. But nonetheless, I feel that the television side of DC and Warner Brothers is really knocking it out of the park. The cinematic side, it's still a little too early to tell. Like I said, Man of Steel is a mixed bag depending on who you ask. I mean, even I have mixed reactions on it. I feel that there was a portion of the film where it just kind of went off the rails, and then it ended with a big boss battle straight out of a video game, and you either love that shit or you hated it. I mean, that's pretty much it. Batman versus Superman, I kind of want to put in that same camp where, starts off really, really deep, kind of goes off the rails, then big video game boss battle to close it out. Again, that's just my thoughts in a nutshell without me elaborating and spoiling anything or ruining the review, but I just wanted to share some thoughts on it because, again, people have been asking where I stand. Nonetheless, be on the lookout for my Batman vs. Superman review on RageWorks.net. In some news regarding the Kingsman sequel, it looks like we have a little bit of new information regarding it. It's going to be called Kingsman: The Golden Circle. There's some concept art which has been floating around. Empire Magazine gave also a little bit of a plot synopsis with the Kingsmen now working with their American counterparts, the Statesmen, to take down a villain named Poppy, played by Julianne Moore. Obviously Eggsy and Merlin will be back. Halle Berry's also going to be involved. Really, really excited for this film. I felt that the first film was tremendous. If you've never seen it or have never given it a chance, please do. It's not your typical spy fare, and it's definitely a really good, a really good depiction from what was shown in the comics and graphic novels. Again, I'm really excited for it. Once I get a release date for the Kingsman sequel, I will let you guys know. On the Marvel side of things, it looks like Gambit once again has been hit with delays. It looks like the film's original December 31st, 2017 date has been delayed due to a delay in the film's start because obviously the director's working on another project and, they're trying to get the film started. And this goes back to what I said before. Gambit does not need a solo film. You can put him right in an X-Men film, throw a little story behind it, and then take it from there. I understand that you want to craft this huge narrative for Fox's X-Men universe, but Gambit is not a character you want to build on. Building off of Wolverine, I understand because he has enough of a story to carry multiple films, but I don't think Gambit is a character that needs that. I really don't. The rumors of them doing the New Mutants film and that moving forward, you could do something with that. You could do something with X-Force or X-Factor, or whatever the case may be, because those are teams and characters that you can expand on within the context of one film. I don't think Gambit's stories and origin are deep enough to require a standalone film. I really don't. So I'm not shocked that it's been delayed, and I think it will continue to be delayed until they either pull the plug on the project or they just decide to use Channing Tatum in an X-Men movie on his own and go from there. Now, again, with that, we'll see what happens, but right now, the delay is where we're at. I don't think they're going to shelve it just yet, but I think that one more delay or one more long-term delay will definitely delay the film indefinitely. Meanwhile, for one little dud that Fox is dealing with, they also got something that is definitely a cause for celebration, and that is that Deadpool continues to make waves in the box office. It has now passed American Sniper to become the second highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. $350.5 million in the domestic box office. It is considered the number one R-rated film worldwide. Of course, Deadpool has exceeded all expectations, both from Fox and even from fans that went in with a lot of apprehension. It's definitely a big bullseye for the crew at Fox and for Ryan Reynolds, and it shows that if done by the book as much as humanly possible, the characters will gain traction. I mean, they did a great job back in the day with Blade. Blade was pretty as close to the books as could be, and they did a great job with that. I think Deadpool is indicative of that. Again, this is one of those situations where here's the comic, read it, take what's in here, put it on this screen, and make it look awesome. That's really what it boils down to. Sometimes it's the easiest path that leads to the best results versus trying to reinvent the wheel and complicating something that really does not need to be complicated. In some DC small screen news, the Patrick J. Adams from Suits, which is currently on hiatus until later this year, will be joining the cast of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Now, obviously, people have been speculating quite a bit as to what character he will play. I've heard Booster Gold. I've heard Nightwing. I've heard young Batman. I've heard so many different things. The only thing that's been said, according to TV Line, is that he is a character with a mysterious past and an equally mysterious agenda. So, definitely a character to keep an eye on, and they've also gone as far as saying that he is a beloved character from DC canon, and he will not only provide the punctuation point for Season 1, but will be a launching point for Season 2 and will recur in a handful of episodes. Definitely a lot of speculation floating around. Like I said, I've heard Nightwing. I thought Booster Gold, but they're definitely not doing that. Some people have said Blue Beetle. We'll see what happens. I'm curious. I mean, Patrick J. Adams does an incredible job on Suits alongside Gabriel Macht, who definitely is a very, very underrated actor. I know that he has the spirit that he's still trying to seek redemption for, which was a fucking terrible movie, but still, I think Patrick J. Adams is another underrated talent, and I'm curious to see what he brings to the fold with DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Now, I did want to mention something, and this was something that I was talking about off air, and that is what's been going on with the release of 4K 4K Blu-rays. And what's been happening as of late is that the Blu-rays are being sold for $29.99, which Slick and I have addressed in previous episodes, but I'm starting to see a bigger push towards 4K adoption, even faster than 3D adoption, with the rumors going around that there's going to be a PlayStation 4K, which is going to be compatible with the PlayStation VR, which is currently available for pre-order. I'm curious about how fast the adoption rate is going to be, and the reason I say this is because everybody was speculating that 3D was going to be on the same level that 4K is, and as much as 3D is out there, it's not the driving force that many people thought. I mean, even myself, occasionally I'll purchase 3D versions of films, 3D Blu-rays, when the films are just amazing to watch in 3D in the theater, and if they're on sale and the difference in price is, nothing. But I'm not going out of my way to purchase 3D films, only because, it's just the necessity to charge the 3D glasses that we use, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. The 4K adoption is interesting because if you go to a lot of stores now, the cost of entry into the 4K space has dropped substantially. I mean, I went into a BJ's wholesale store, and they had a Samsung curved 4K TV for under $2,000. It feels like it wasn't even, 3 to 6 months ago where those TVs were in the $5,000 and $6,000 category. And to see such a dramatic drop, and also seeing people adopt the technology so quickly, it definitely has my attention. I'm going to put this out there, whether, you guys respond directly via the comments for this show or on social media. I'm curious to know where people stand with 4K. Are you one of the people that's planning to adopt it within the next 3 to 6 months, or are you going to take a wait and see approach? For me personally, I've seen some really good deals on on Blu-ray televisions. Hell, I think Slick sent me a deal not too long ago with a really solid deal on 4K. I feel that the medium, as I said, still in its infancy. With regards to 4K Blu-rays, I mean, like anything else, they're $29.99 now. 3 to 6 months they'll be $19.99, or they'll be the same price as regular Blu-rays when for Tuesday release dates. I'm not 100% overly critical of 4K Blu-rays, only because, again, the medium is evolving. I just am curious about the adoption rate. Like I said, I've seen some 4K Blu-rays at Consumer Electronics Week, and in particular I saw The Martian, which they were playing in 4K, and it was out of this world. I mean, no pun intended. Beautiful picture, amazing color, stellar sound. And I'm not, for me, don't get me wrong, a beautiful picture is key, but I really am more about the improvements that have been done to the sound with, DTS and everything else that has improved with the 4K versions of these films. Again, that's not me preaching or pontificating that you should go out and buy a 4K Blu-ray or a 4K television, but I will say that if you are in the market for a new TV, whether it's a primary, a secondary display, or you should definitely start looking at the technology just for future proof, just for the sake of being future proof. I mean, Netflix has some stuff that's streaming in 4K currently, and the gaming consoles are definitely going to move in that direction. I'm curious to see how Sony's going to approach that with the quote-unquote PlayStation 4K, and how they're going to price it in relation to the current console offerings that are out there. I mean, I understand that they're probably going to do it, obviously, for the PlayStation VR, but I am curious to see how that's going to be approached from, the pricing perspective. Like I said, for those of you that have that are on the fence or possibly picking up a new display, I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to know if you're going to be picking up a 4K, if not, and if you are an existing 4K owner and are currently consuming 4K content via DVD and Blu-ray, via Blu-ray or via streaming, I'd love to know what you think of the technology and what hardware you're using, what receivers you're using, whether you're using Dolby Atmos, thank you Slick, or whether you're using a projector or anything else. I'd love to hear what you guys are rocking with on the 4K front. Always cool to hear that stuff. Again, feel free to reach out, mtrhost at mytakeradio.com with that info, or rich at rageworks.net. With that is going to wrap up the entertainment segment for this week, and it's going to wrap up the show as well. So I've given you guys my take on gaming and entertainment. As always, I'd love to hear yours. Feel free to reach out via social media on Twitter at mytakeradio or rage_works. You can also become a fan of our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/official Rageworks, or join the Rageworks Facebook group and interact with myself and the rest of the Rageworks and MTR staff, and also some of the hosts from the shows on the Rageworks network, including Ben and Taylor from Black is the New Black, and Jay Santee from the Regular Season Sportscast, which, by the way, those guys are probably going to have new episodes for you this week. The Regular Season Sportscast Overtime is probably going to be spun off into its own show. I feel that Josie's boy, who hosts a show with Jay Santee, has come into his own, and he's kind of on a probation period right now. We're waiting for him to get 5 episodes in the books before we move forward with him having his own feed on the Rageworks site, but definitely keep an eye out for that if you're a fan of TRSS Overtime, which will soon be transitioning to a brand new show, and I will make an announcement for that once we decide to move forward. Again, we got WrestleMania this week. I'm sure that we will also have a buried show the following week, so keep an eye out for that. And as always, you can join us every Wednesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Next Wednesday, we will have our MMA and wrestling show, but there will not be a gaming and entertainment show due to an event that we are covering. But keep it locked to our social media account so you can see where we're at, what we're covering, and what cool toys we are playing with. All right, guys, I want to thank you on behalf of Slick and the rest of the Rageworks and MTR staff. I will see you guys next Wednesday, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Thank you guys for joining me for this episode of MTR. I am out of here. Peace.